Warning: the following video contains delusional takes from two Washington Capitals fans that are just happy to be back in the playoffs. For your safety and the protection of those around you, please avoid contact with these morons at all cost.
All right, we're going to move on to the next series. I'm sure this one will take no longer than 2 hours and 40 minutes to cover, but the New York Rangers versus the Washington Capitals. The Rangers are coming in at minus 375 to win the series, and the Washington Capitals are a whopping plus 290 to pull off an upset against the boys in blue. The season series was split 2-2. I mean, in terms of what each team is good at, the Rangers are pretty much good at everything. There's really no weaknesses. They won the President's Trophy. They were the best team in the league.
9 goals for and 9 goals against in that season series too.
That's wild. That's a good
Yep.
stat. And then for Washington, a lot of you Caps fans listening might know this already, but you guys kind of thrive in those low-scoring, one-goal tight games. The Caps were 20 wins, 2 regulation losses, and 11 overtime losses in one-goal games this season. That 2 regulation loss is the fewest in the NHL. So, yeah, the Caps can keep this boring, slow, kind of through the trenches. I think that'll probably help them out the best. Nick, what are your thoughts immediately on the series?
Yeah, I echo everything you just said, especially the last point. And if they can muck it up and slow it down and make it difficult for the Rangers, if they can keep it a one-goal game, they're in every single one of those games. They can turn it around very, very quickly. They can hurt you in a lot of ways that you don't think you can. That being said, if this turns into a track meet, this is going to be a turkey shoot and it's going to get ugly fast. We've seen what happens. You look at what the Buffalo Sabres did to the Caps. That's a young, quick, puck-moving team, especially with their defense that can jump up and activate, basically on the flip of a dime. They tore them up. And multiple times this year, they tore them up. So, you know, going up against the Laviolette coach team is obviously going to be difficult. He obviously knows the personnel, or at least the majority of the personnel that are going to be coming up against him here. So that's going to be a narrative to watch. I don't know, guys. I mean, I've got conflicting feelings on this one where like my brain is trying to talk me into it, but on paper it's just really hard to see a situation where the Caps can pull this off.
Yeah, I mean, you already touched on it. We have weaknesses for each team listed here. The Caps, if this does turn into a shootout, I don't see a world where they survive longer than 4 or 5 games at most. And for the Rangers, to be honest, I really couldn't think of one. So, in effort to not offend all of the Rangers fans listening, I asked our good friend Mark Cotteraro what his would be, and he said they're not that great at defending the rush. So there's that. All right. So we got one in
Won't be
there.
a problem.
I was
I was
gonna
gonna
say.
say that we never have odd man rushes, so I wouldn't worry about it. I think the big X factor for me, and this is a no brainer for any team, any matchup, but the Caps got to score first. The
Yep.
last few games of the season, last 5 or 6 games, we scored the first goal, and we didn't win all of them, but they just play so much better when they're not chasing, and they go into panic mode when they're down even by a goal. They get away from some of the systems, and they just look a little more reckless out there. So scoring first and kind of putting the Rangers on their heels is going to be huge. If they can find a way to do that in some of these games, I think they'll win a couple. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. I agree with what Nick said, where it's like it's hard to see a way where we steal this one. But the good thing, and this is something Caps fans are not used to. There's no pressure on us. I mean, there's just
Yes.
that part I like is that there's no pressure on us whatsoever. People will be shocked if we win 1 or 2 games this series. So
I think the other big storyline here and why I think Rangers fans can't just chalk this up as a slam dunk right off the bat has to be the play of Charlie Lindgren. You know,
absolutely, we
and
saw. Remember when the Caps got goalied when we won the
yes,
President's Trophy by Halak
yes,
for the Habs?
vividly, yes,
It feels similar.
yeah,
He catches silly side too, doesn't he?
he does.
Yep.
So
Wow.
that's going to be a big one to look at for me. yes, it's going to depend on a lot of the play around him. I know I just said this for the previous series, but oh my God, stay out of the box with that Zibanejad, Panarin, Fox, whoever the fuck else power play. That's just insane.
Zibanejad scares me the most out of
Yes.
anyone on this entire team. He is maybe the biggest cap killer in the league. I don't know the stats on it, but it just feels like that guy
We don't
just
need him. It's
has
eye
his
test.
he just has his way with our team
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah, this is gonna be, in my opinion, I'm kind of revealing my pick here, but I'm really not even trying to hate on you guys or any of the Caps fans. I know the clip that everybody liked to comment on about me rooting against the Caps for this series, but I think this is gonna be a big ass kicking, like truthfully. And the only reason I say that, last year the Rangers kind of got embarrassed and they should have won that series. And the fact that the Devils beat them in 7, I think didn't sit well. Panarin did not play well last postseason. That's what led to the buzz cut. I think he was like cursed with the flow and he was like, fuck it, I'm taking it off. And I think that they're going to rebound this year. I think they got a little chip on their shoulder. I also saw, I think Philip Hedl is coming back into the lineup for game 1. When the Rangers lost to the Lightning in the 3rd round in 2022, he was arguably the Rangers' best playoff player that postseason. So he's going to be a big addition for the Rags coming back. But I will say this, I do think the Caps will get 1. I don't think they're going to get swept.
I texted good friend of the program, Mark, about that. I just said Caps in 4 just to get a reaction out of him. And we were going back and forth talking about what we actually thought was going to happen. And he said he thinks it's going to be done in 6, and that he's like, I'm cautious here because this should be a slam dunk, but I know it's not.
And like you said, Charlie Lindgren's going to steal one. I know it. And let me tell you, if it's game 1, that just makes for great content for us because I'm so fired up for that. But let's hear your guys' picks. What are we thinking here?
I'm not going first for this one.
Mac.
I do think I think we'll win one of the first 2 games at MSG. I'm counting on that. Man,
that grin,
Harry, you're going first.
I got Rags in 5.
Okay.
I got Rags in 5. You guys will get 1. I'm looking at these 2 idiots like we want to say it, but we can't say it, but they're gonna say it.
I can't bring myself to say it. I know what I'm looking at, and I still can't bring myself to say that the Rangers are going to win this playoff series. So Caps in 7, baby. Let's fucking go.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's do it. Caps in 7.
Oh my God. All right. So here's what I want to ask you guys. Now we got the picks. There's a couple storylines. Tom Wilson. We know he's got a little bit of history with the Rangers, and now there's a guy by the name of Matt Rempe, who is also a blue shirt. What are your thoughts on just how the physicality of this series could potentially go?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Caps' physicality to close out the season. That game they played against Tampa, they literally just ran them over for 3 periods. It was the most hits thrown by a single team all season long. So
Yeah, that was
I
sick.
actually give the physical advantage to the Caps. I know that Matt Rempe is the size of a school bus and can run people over and punch them through the back of their face, but I don't anticipate that many fights, if that makes sense, in this series. Obviously the post whistle stuff, that's going to happen. Big hits, I absolutely expect that to happen, but I don't necessarily see either of these teams wanting to drop the gloves, especially if you're the Caps, because like I said, you don't want to put that power play on the ice for 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they'll want to, but I have a hard time. I don't know. This feels like classic Caps to have Rempe lay some bullshit hit on one of our guys, and Wilson will have to do something to stand up for him, and then they'll penalize Wilson more than they'll penalize Rempe for it, or some shit like that. It's going to stir the pot between the 2 fan bases. I'm fully expecting something like that to happen.
If I'm the Rangers, Tom Wilson is one thing. Dylan McElrath is another thing.
Yeah, that's a good point, honestly.
I mean, he kicked the shit out of Keegan Colasar this year.
He did. I have heard, though, that Jensen and Sandin, they're not ruled out for game 1. So we'll see if Big Mac is even in the lineup. I wouldn't mind seeing him get a game, honestly. I mean, he had the assist of a lifetime on the most important goal of our season in the last game of the year. So nothing to scoff at. We talked about Beck Malenstein too. He lays a lot of hits. Now don't have Hathaway anymore. We'll miss that, but yeah, it'll be interesting. Honestly, what scares me the most about Rempe is just like them planting his ass in front of Lindgren, in front of the net. Like that's what I fear more than anything that he's going to do physical wise. I mean, we like Nick said, we can match that pretty good, but we don't have anyone that fucking big. I mean, Protus, I guess, but he's not that big.
Well, no one who's that big and actually uses it.
Right, exactly.
I knew that. You can't say Protus without saying how soft he is. It's so funny.
It's not that he's soft. It's just
Yeah.
like go to the net and be a fucking barn in front of the tendy. But no, Mac, I totally get what you're saying. It's exactly what the Penguins used to do with Patrick Hornquist. They would just park him in front of Holtby and shoot around him. So it was really tough for the Caps to defend then. It's absolutely going to be tough for them to defend now. So yeah.
Too bad Matt Rempe can't like actually score goals the way Tom Wilson can though.
Had to plant that one in there. Love that.
Yep.
The Lindgren boys, they're going toe to toe. That's a nice little storyline. And then 2 props that I'm going to set here. So I was looking at FanDuel today. The over-under for Ovi goals in the series is set at 3.5. Once you go over 3.5, you can get at plus money. Your thoughts on potentially Ovi getting 4 or more? Sure, why not, right?
That's a tough one.
The
Rangers don't strike me. I don't have the stats in front of me, but they don't strike me as one of the teams that he's like totally had his way with. There's a couple teams that he just fucking scores all the time against. Like I think Boston and New Jersey are up there.
Atlanta was the big one. He used to just torment them.
Montreal
and even still
like
Winnipeg.
Montreal.
There's some random teams, and that's like all time. That's not saying like Montreal sucks this year, but that's like throughout his whole career. So, but I don't remember the Rangers being up there that high necessarily. So I don't know.
He's put up. I mean, obviously we know the Caps Rangers playoff history over the last 20 years. He has put up numbers against them. Obviously, this year's a little bit different. I'm going to say over because I think the series is going the distance. So,
yeah, that's a good point. I'll take it too. I'm
going to double down. Why not? I know
I'm
going to be wrong, but I'm doubling down.
I think Strome is going to have himself a series. I think he is fired up to play in the playoffs, and I don't think the lights are going to be too big for him. Yeah.
And then my second prop that doesn't require any feedback from you guys, but I will be reporting to the listeners of this podcast, the over-under amount of times that I get a text message in the group of fuck Jacob Trouba. I am going to set that at in the series. I'm going to set it at 11.5 because as a Pens fan who has played the Rangers many of times since Trouba has been in blue and red, I can tell you that guy is going to cause a lot of ruckus. Some high hits. Some dirty hits. It's gonna be fun.
I don't know. He doesn't. I mean, I know he does that kind of stuff, but I wasn't thinking about him at all. It's kind of like that.
That's why. It's kind
of like that Mad Men meme. I don't know if you've seen it, where it's like somebody saying to Don Draper, "What do they say?" It's like, "I hate you" or something, and he just goes, "I don't think about you at all."
Exactly, which is just the coldest thing ever.
Right.
Yeah, Trouba's obviously a force to be reckoned with. He's one of the premier defensemen in the NHL. I'm much more scared of a guy like Max said, like Zibanejad or Vincent Trocheck, because that's the kind of player that's going to come into the series and have fucking 8 goals.
Yeah, no, you're so right.
Like Sean Bergenheim did with the Tampa Bay Lightning against the Caps when they got swept.
Yeah, Vinny definitely fucking scares me.
All right. Well, I think we've covered that series enough. Also Laviolette going against the Caps, so that's a nice little storyline in there too.
I got one question for you guys. Will we see Darcy Kemper in this series?
If we do, it's in relief. It's not starting a game though.
Right.
Yeah,
I think there's at least one game where they get speed bagged.
That's probably accurate.
Yeah, I think Chucky gets chased in one of them.
And that's the other thing to look at. But that's
the thing is, like, if they're getting speed bagged, then they throw Darcy in, then everyone's coming up at Carbs the next day with who's your game 3 starter or whatever. And it's like, then maybe you throw Darcy in, give him a shot. I don't know. We'll see.
I think it's a good point though, because it also, if the Caps go down
He's
by
won a
3,
Stanley Cup.
yeah, true. If the Caps go down by 3 goals, they can go to Darcy Kemper and be totally fine. You know, I don't know
Yeah.
if they can claw their way back into a game like that, but there's other
Right.
teams like we were talking about with Tampa and Florida
Yeah.
that don't have a guy like that.
True.
You know, if you need a quick reset button, you know, let in 2 right off the bat or something just to shake it up,
Yeah.
not a bad option.
I agree.